Hey guys, welcome to the Canada Puck Podcast, your bi-weekly, your roundly podcast of what's going on in the world of hockey, specifically in Canada. And something else? No, I tried to change it and that didn't work too well. I'm your co-host, Mick, and you can find me on Twitter at ProfitMick, and I'm joined ever with my lovely and talented co-host,
Grant, on Twitter at Fourth Line Sports. It's, intermittent. Maybe intermittent is the best way to describe our podcast.
Sure. Yeah, so I think 2 weeks ago we were just discussing, we were looking at Canucks Oilers, and now we're looking at the end of Oilers Stars, so right on the ball there, guys. And with that, I think, we could probably just recap, I don't know what you want to talk about, where we're going. How's the pressure in the Edmonton fan household these days?
Lots to dissect. It's on me I pulled the plug late last week, so we didn't get a chance to celebrate the Canucks loss. I think either one way or another, we were getting drunk to shit on the Canucks that day, and it never ended.
I was going to use the headcanon that we got drunk anyways. We were like, well, we can't drink on the podcast. We'll just drink our Baby Duck before the podcast, and the whole bottle of Baby Duck before 10 a.m. doesn't get you very far. So.
Okay, well, missed opportunity there. Also, I will say this about the Baby Duck folks, because I have gone to them on numerous occasions asking for time, money, or sponsorship from them, and the answer is always no. So guess what, Peller Estates? Maybe you're the new Canucks. Maybe this is our opportunity to just shit on Baby Duck, that delicious, sparkling beverage that just gets you drunk enough to fuck a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Problem of and solution up to all of life's problems. Baby Duck. There you
Baby
go.
Duck. Baby Duck. There you go.
But so I will say this, we're Alberta, we're Calgary based. I would say this, it feels a little uncomfortable to be honest, because I'm seeing not Calgary necessarily, rally around the Oilers per se, but the Calgary radio stations, local people, everybody's talking about the Oilers, and it's like, I don't like it. I would rather we were so hated that people are burning Oilers flags at this stage rather than being like, you know what, I'll hop on the Oilers bandwagon.
Right? For a rival city, they fold really quickly to the peer pressure.
Straight up.
I'm ready to see the Calgary Tower be lit up in Oilers colors, all of our downtown, just embrace it. Be like, come on, Oilers, let's go. I'm like, let's go. Let's go Oilers. I was like, we had second round Flames Oilers a couple years ago, right? There was a heated rivalry, and the Oilers, did they just take every little ounce of Flames fandom in the city and just destroy it then? Was that the end of it?
There's probably a good thesis dissertation there, because that was really the collapse of the Flames as a whole.
Oh.
After that, they traded Kachuk and Gaudreau,
yeah.
And it's just been this shit spiral since. Oh my God! How have we not had this conversation or realization? My God, I'm going to become a doctor on this idea. I promise you that.
Cool, sweet. So just the collapse, and I mean, it would have been more fitting had the Flames not got the arena deal and moved to Nantucket. I don't know what the next big hockey market we're trying to break into, right? But I almost that almost seemed like the reality we were heading in. So maybe the arena will still fall through.
I mean, fingers crossed. And as taxpayers, I don't know how we're burdening all of this into Flames just being we're too poor to afford this. But anyways,
Go
Oilers, go.
Yeah.
I at the end of the last round, it was Game 7. There's a limited amount of places where you can take a kid, get as drunk as you'd like, and watch the game. I can tell you, I walked up and down numerous streets across the city and have been just left out in the cold. So sadly, and I hate that I did this, sadly we walked to Boston Pizza in an Oilers jersey. I don't know how long it was, a few blocks, and I got one shout at the entire time, and it was, "Go Canucks." There was no degrading comments. There was nobody spitting on me. And I was I was ready to fight. I was I'm going to put this jersey on and I'm going to go fight somebody tonight, because that's just the nature of being an Oilers fan in Edmonton, or in Calgary rather. And nothing. It was some teenage girl shouted at me at a stoplight. I was I will fight you if I have to, if that's what it comes down to, and this is my only option. And lo and behold, I probably should have, because it was just, quiet, more rallying cries than degradation, which didn't make me feel comfortable.
I could see in the defense of it, like everyone's the villain, right? Like as a Flames fan, as a Calgarian, I'm like Vancouver, Edmonton. Like if both planes collided in midair or something, and both teams blew up, like that's best case scenario. Everything else is kind of just like awful, right? It kind of moves into that negativity zone. So like I could see everyone just being apathetic at that point. But like the pacifism or like even the reliance, the growth of like the Oilers kind of cheering in the city. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it's a sign of this weak generation that's coming up beneath us, where they're like, we'll just hop on the next cool thing.
I mean, there might be like a greater like socioeconomical conversation about Calgarians or the lack of work in Edmonton causing lots of people from Edmonton to move to Calgary as they try and like chase the last of the oil and gas production in this company, of this like dying province's economy. Like maybe that's just what we're seeing. So maybe your doctorate is going to go to some dark, scary socioeconomical places.
Well, I can tell you, and yeah, it doesn't matter what the conclusion is.
Were you expecting to have that said on your Canada Puck podcast this morning? No.
The academic, yeah, put that in your academic pipe and smoke it, dicks. But I will say this: it's always an emotional roller coaster. The best analogy I think that applies is the Raptors back in 2019 for you, when it was like you're watching one of your favorite teams in the entire world just lose games and like heartbreaking defeats and finding ways to win, and it's hard to not play the role that you did back in the Raptors day and just bet against them every night and be like, you know what, no matter what happens, something good is going to happen in my life. So, as usual, I'm here to validate you're a genius, Mick.
Excellent, good, perfect. That's all I wanted. That's all I've ever wanted. With that, though, that kind of wraps up. I guess what we have to do is we have to preview the last two series. There's potentially a couple more games left in the slate in this Western Conference Finals before we get to the Stanley Cup Championship, and maybe I'm giving tipping my hat later in the show. I think we might have a couple more games in both the series. With that, though, we do have to do, I guess, a post-mortem on the Vancouver Canucks and their season that was. Their expectations, they kind of exceeded expectations. I think lots of people didn't put them in the postseason to begin with, rather than being a President's Trophy candidate right down the way. So having the most points in the league, right? They were right up into the final end. They were within, 2 points, 3 points? It was pretty close there. So overachieving essentially this summer or this throughout the year. And what do we think of Vancouver? Can you say something nice about them? I guess I said they exceeded expectations because we all thought they were shit. So,
well, that's pretty as much as nice as it's going to get around here. The one thing that I keep reflecting
I almost felt bad that I thought I was saying something nice until I double checked what I said, and then I was like, oh yeah, no, okay, that's how it works.
Yeah, they're better than the shit team we thought they were. The one thing I was reflecting on is this. Is this iteration of the Canucks good enough to win the Stanley Cup? Like, is there a world where this team, this 2023-24 team, without change, could win the Stanley Cup?
Well, I mean, I don't want to be this guy, and, I don't want to diminish anything nice that's happening to you in your life, but beating a third-string goalie, right, even maybe the second, have a better backup goalie, but a healthy Thatcher Demko potentially does take this team. A hot, healthy Thatcher Demko could win this team the Stanley Cup. Yeah, I mean, that's what we see. We're seeing that in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Hot goalies can take you a long way. So, as currently constitutes, yeah, I mean, the biggest hole I would say they have is goalie health, right? An injury from your star kind of down the stretch of the season. So, and Elias Pettersson's lackluster playoff performance, right? That's supposed to be kind of your stud, your star, your franchise player going forward. So, I don't know. Does he get better? I don't know if Elias Pettersson can play worse, right? So you give it a better Pettersson performance, a healthy Demko. I don't know.
So it sounds like you're trying to say yes, but you don't want to.
Yeah.
And so the stumbling block for me is this team is great. They've got skilled players literally at every level. Thatcher Demko is great. Quinn Hughes is Norris Worthy. And then up front, they've got their smattering of talented forwards. And Rick Tocchet has seemingly brought them all together. But it just feels like they're just missing structure. Like, they were good at corralling McDavid in that series, but they weren't obviously great at either breaking through or matching, like, limiting scoring at every level. So it's like they're top. Maybe it's a depth thing. Maybe they just need more depth at the bottom six to help them get where they need to be. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, man, it's just it feels kind of like too soft of a team to make a sincere Stanley Cup run. But maybe that's just me hating on the Canucks and finding everything that I can to say, no, this team sucks. I don't want to like them. Because at the end of the day, that's my goal. I don't want to like the Canucks.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see them being a little thin too, and needed to make those improvements. The core going forward, though, right? If you put the right pieces around it, but that's basically every single hockey team, right? So essentially, all we're saying is just the hardest part of building your team, of health and getting the luck and like those intangible pieces building around the fringes with like the right guy, that like A+ fourth liner, finding that guy. Oh boy, baby. Easiest thing to do in sports.
Maybe this is going to come off a little too Don Cherry. No, you know what? This is definitely going to come off a little too Don Cherry.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. Should we just like mic this for a second and like pick it up? Are you going to like go like that level of Don Cherry?
There is just, yeah, you know what? Let's leave that. Let's leave that behind. I think the truculence that the Vancouver Canucks are missing on the truculence that we love so much. Yeah. To get them over the playoff hump.
The one thing I would say from watching some of the postseason or like end of year wrap up stuff with the Canucks is the discontent coming from some of the players of that organization. This team was, I thought, excellent all season, right? Like, could we argue that? They had a hot start. They kind of kept it going. Again, they're in contention for the President's Trophy. They're in a Game 7 in round 2 of the playoff, guys. Like, we discredit a loss as a loss, but a Game 7 is kind of a coin toss. You get to that point in a series, I think we should be a bit less harsh on like those losing teams and those efforts. And where am I going? Oh, but like the disinterest of some of these players wanting to come back. I've heard lots of these guys not wanting to return. Right? They're not being neutral interest returning to the Canucks. Philip Hronek. I don't know if you saw his year-end presser, but he like went at the media pretty hard. Right? They asked him some kind of bullshit question, and like he was not happy with it. So just the disinterest and discontent in that market from these players, from the tough Vancouver media market, is interesting. Like, just there is a fractured relationship, but I don't know if there is that level of interest in like the fandom and what it is to be a Canuck too, right? And I was a bit more shocked with that. So, but
that caught me a little less off guard because. Maybe not from the media's perspective, or sorry, maybe less so from the media's perspective. But like, this team acquired Elias Lindholm, and they were like, "Whatever, we'll trade you at the drop of a hat." Like, don't tell me that Elias Lindholm after that debacle was like, "I'm so excited to come back to Vancouver, spend $4 million to live in a shitty apartment on the Lower East Side, and basically just." Being hung out to dry by a team, by media, by whatever other forces downtown East Side has to offer. Like, I don't get the appeal of Vancouver. Like, it's not a hotbed for hockey, and I don't think that players really want to play there.
Huh, I can see that. Yeah, and like being the only pro sport in the market, right? Like, it is a little bit isolated. You're close to the States, but again, you're not like in the States. Huh, interesting. I guess they did. They were playing pretty hardball with. They had talks of Elias Pettersson, right? Potentially moving him before he's hating his. So potentially some hardball from management has ruffled some guys the wrong way, right? So regardless of what's going on in the room or with the guys, I guess if you hate your boss, you hate your organization. It doesn't matter who you work with, right? So
exactly. So we'll see. Rick Tocchet, though, kudos to him. He brought this team together. I don't know how many of these pieces are going to be back next year.
Yeah, no, there'll be some change. So cool. So with that, big change, small change. When you start signing guys to like $11+ million deals, you're kind of stuck with a couple of them for a while, for a long time. You can never get rid of them. So, well, at least got 8 more years of that, Vancouver.
Good, yeah,
Big
good luck.
Swedish guy that turns it off in the playoffs. Oh, baby. That sounds awesome. With that, though, let's look at what's going on in these other series. So Florida beat Boston. Rangers beat Carolina. I don't know if we knew that, but the Panthers did win Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, which sets up a Game 6 tonight, a potential elimination by the New York Rangers. Is that what we think's occurring tonight? Or what's your pulse or feel on this series?
So there's just a few things that are rubbing me the wrong way about Florida. And it's stuff that we've probably talked about before. Bobrovsky lacks the consistency to make me believe that this team is a true Stanley Cup contender where he's hot, he's cold, he stops like 12 of 15 and then he'll stop 32 of 33. Like it makes, there's no rhyme or reason to his performance. Like he's either on or he's off. And to me, that seems incompatible with the Stanley Cup champion when you have to go 7 games. You want your goalie stealing you a game, and playing average, not bouncing between, not costing you a game, and then hoping he does well enough that he doesn't blow it down the road. So I don't know if I believe in Bobrovsky too. It also feels like the Panthers, I don't want to say they're diving, but they're trying to draw penalties, and it just comes off as a little soft, a little like the opposite of grit. I'm not sure what the opposite of grit is. But
well, they like to think of themselves as a wrecking ball, as kind of they have the truculence, right? But I don't think the Rangers are a pushover team, too, right? Like we talked about this, they can go blow for blow. They don't have the weak links. They can't really push them around. So it is interesting to watch the tough guys all of a sudden start diving. It's the same thing we saw with the Bruins, right? The big bad Bruins. Oh my God, they did nothing but dive and fall during the Leafs and Florida series. Like just like the beat, like. It's one of those things like the bully turns into a baby very, very quickly when kind of pushed back, right? It's the old motto of like, how do you beat a bully? You stand up to them. And in hockey, if you do that, it's funny how quickly they become like paper tigers. All of a sudden they just like crumple, right? With like the slightest sign of pushback. So is that what we're seeing? I also too don't love what I've seen from the Panthers, right? It was kind of the Rangers games to lose. And really that Game 5 was a couple. It was like that Forsling goal that somehow he slipped in behind the defenseman of the Rangers and like had this weak backhand shot that I think Shesterkin somehow like deflected into the net. I think it was going wide and somehow it like he hit his pad and like nicked it in himself. And I'm like, I just don't know that's gonna like Shesterkin's gonna do that every game. So it'll probably be closer. And like I said, probably a couple more games left in this one. I don't think it's over tonight. Probably looking at a Monday night finish.
yeah, I don't want to tip my hand here too much either, but I will. Exactly, puck luck's a funny thing, and sometimes you get the bounces, sometimes you don't get the bounces, and it does feel like Florida's getting the bounces right now. And back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals, it's would be hell of an accomplishment, but I don't know if the Panthers have the wherewithal to get there based off their current performance.
Yeah, and I just think there's lots of star power with the Rangers. It's been quiet, right, that we're not hearing, and we'll see them step up too, right? Shesterkin has played some hero puck, right, especially in some of those elimination games against the Hurricanes that were bringing on the pressure. So similar build, similar make to the Panthers. We'll see if they can break them, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if we see some type of great performance tonight. So.
Again, not saying this is on Shesterkin at this point. Shesterkin needs to steal Game 6, and if they can get home with a little bit of momentum at their back, who knows what will happen.
There you go. Awesome. To the Western Conference Finals, tied up 2-2. Game 5 was last night, so I guess we kind of get our potential future. We get a reaction podcast. Oh, little like hangover Sunday morning, little hangover Saturday morning recap of Game 5, Oilers and Stars.
So I wrote this yesterday. I don't know if there's anybody who reads what I write and listens to what I have to say. That sounds like a pretty pathetic existence if that does happen. So I apologize to the 2 or 3 people I may have offended. But Edmonton has made this. They've made this academic. They are outplaying the Stars. They're breaking through the systems or creating chances. Home away doesn't matter. But what was most impressive up until last night, I want to say like 70% of their goals, like about 70% of the goals, maybe it was like 8 of 12, something like that, were scored at 5-on-5. And this is an Edmonton team that relies heavily on power play scoring. So to see them split the first 4 games of the series without relying on power play scoring was just a testament to their like outplaying the Stars.
Yeah.
And so the hypothetical position was that if they can unlock power play scoring, this isn't going to be a series anymore. This is just going to be Edmonton running away with it, because if you're scoring at 5-on-5 and then you get clicking it on the power play as well, Dallas just hasn't been able to keep up. And we saw that we got a glimmer of that yesterday. 2 power play goals, and Edmonton had a 3-0 lead, which is basically as good as it's going to get on the road. Mm-hmm. And they held on. They shut things down in the third period. No need to get crazy. It was more about not losing than winning at that point. And so rather than risking it all to blow another lead, it was more about reserve defensive effort, and it paid off well with Edmonton obviously prevailing 3-1. I like their chances going back home for Game 6. Like, if there's, having seen what we've seen from them and the 5-on-5 scoring, the power play scoring, the defensive responsibility, I keep fucking saying Stuart Skinner's name out loud, and it keeps coming back to haunt me. But guess what? Stuart Skinner looked pretty good the last couple of games. And so factoring all of those in, I'm like, man, if they can sustain this current form, I don't know if there's any stopping them in Game 6.
Sure. And I noticed after they scored early on, they were playing pretty soft, pretty much off the puck defense, right? It looked like they were collapsing it around the net, just trying to basically say, we're not going to let you get in close, right? There was a sequence where Dallas had the puck where every single pass went from a player's skate to their stick, or they would kick it back to their skate to their stick. So they didn't have time to like stick handle and use their sticks in sequentials. Like the next play, the player would get off their puck or off the skate, be able to stick handle it. So they're having tons of time out there. But again, they just weren't getting into those tough 30 spots. And we were seeing that on the score sheet, right? Like they just weren't getting the long distance shots on Skinner, right? So challenging them. I don't know if that's just a sequence of an early lead and you kind of sit back and play a bit more team defense, right? So we'll see. The one thing I would say is I think early on it was like the first power play that Dallas had was at the end of a period, and man, that fucking sucks. As a Leafs fan, I don't have numbers. I'm not going to just throw hypotheticals, but like multiple times, multiple games, a lot, I would see these power plays come within the last under 2 minutes in a period, and it just absolutely kills the power play. It kills the momentum. Really, breaking up those periods with that power play is absolutely just killer, right? And we saw that at the end of Dallas. It kind of gets you down if things don't get clicking. And I almost wonder could that be a rule change? That within the final 2 minutes of a period, if you draw a power play, could you defer it to the start of the next period? So you have the whole period to sit down, relax, wait. You just got to run up the clock. I don't know. As a coach, I would definitely look at that and would love to defer, because of that intermittent, that broken up power play just seems like it's just like a killer for teams' momentums.
And this may be a little too granular, but like the quality of the ice at the end of the period is very different from the quality of the ice at the start of the period. So being able to take advantage on fresh ice, I think if there's a league crazy enough to adopt something like this, it's the NHL, to just be like, you know what, you can defer your penalty if it's within this time frame, and just start fresh at the start of the next.
And maybe period. That's a question for my advanced stat heads out there, right? What are the power play percentages when in the inter period power plays, right? So if a penalty is drawn, or if a power play is given in the final 2 minutes, how often do teams convert on that, right? And if it's such a small percentage, I don't know, maybe that's a rule change. You defer to the start of the next period.
I'm shocked you think that there's people with that kind of knowledge or ability to obtain these answers that tune into two drunks like us. But if they're out there, I really hope they give us the answers, because It is worth investigating.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure those like nerds, they have like the algorithm hooked up. So when I say like things like nerds and stuff like that, what did I call them? Stat heads or something like that? Whatever.
Advanced
Yeah,
stat heads?
advanced stat heads. I don't know. I was trying to use like the words that would like tingle their senses. Like, hey, wait, I got something. I have a spreadsheet to show you. Here you go. Okay.
This is going to be our our nerdiest description ever. Nerds and stat heads unite. Mick and Grant are back to discuss blah, 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 blah. We'll see if we can get a few buzzwords going in the description this time.
And not to discredit like the entire game, but watching, I've seen multiple Leafs games where that sequence happens, a late first period power play doesn't go your way, and all of a sudden it seems like it throws off your momentum the rest of the game. So we'll see what Dallas could do tomorrow night. Can they bounce back? Can they push into the ropes? Can Edmonton crack under the pressure? Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's not. I don't even know why that's being a part of the discussion. I just like knowing, having seen what I've seen from this team and knowing what I know about them. It's tough for me to think like if they lose Game 6 that they're going to win Game 7. It's just this is a team that it feels like if they don't win this next game, the series might just be. It's definitely going to be Dallas's to lose. So
I weirdly understand that mentality again. Fault having this happen to me, and you're just like, oh my, like it has to happen tomorrow. I would weirdly take Dallas in Game 6, and I think Edmonton in Game 7. Sounds about right, like an overtime or something like that, right? Best player on the ice. Let's give it to McDavid, see what he can do.
yeah, and so this is the other interesting perspective that we talked about last time. Road team 3-2 in this series, so road teams are just having a hell of a. Like, I don't get the run that road teams are on in the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't have the numbers. I should have looked at them before. But even reflecting on Florida, New York, they might be in the similar 3-2 as the road team, which is, like, it seems unusual for the conference finals.
So I think there is, and like I've heard this discussion in other sports too. So I don't follow baseball, so I don't listen to anyone talk about baseball, right? So I don't know if that's a discussion what baseball looks like, but football, it's almost like home field advantage is slid away, right? Like very few teams, arenas right now offer, or I guess stadiums in football's case, offer that kind of that home field advantage. We don't see that necessarily shift, right? And you're seeing that a lot in basketball as well. Like it's almost like home court doesn't matter. You can, right? Like guys are getting Minnesota Timberwolves when they lost to Dallas, the Mavericks there. They were getting booed in like the third quarter because they were playing so terribly. And it's just one of those things. It's almost like the pressure of playing in front of your home crowd is worse than like the thrill of the win or something, right? It's almost like these guys are like getting in their heads and they're so connected with fans and they have all this information that it is breaking them down. And that home ice advantage almost has disappeared, right? I almost would, like, if you look at every game throughout the playoffs and you charted it, very, very few times you'd say like, oh, I was a home ice advantage, right? And I mean, these guys are so like, they fly on private jets. You know, they have like the nutrition trackers. They know about napping. They know about eating. Everything's so dialed in. It doesn't matter almost where you are, right? Outside of maybe like if it's like a good city like a Montreal or like a New Orleans where like they have a great nightlife and the boys want to go out to like a Vegas or something. Like those are almost like the biggest deterrents for home ice advantage or something, right? But like for the most part, like at this point, do you think the Dallas guys are going out at night? No.
Oh, would you go out at night in Dallas, Mick? Not without at least a couple firearms, bow and arrow, maybe.
Same with Edmonton too. I heard it's terrible up there. Everyone's moving down to Calgary just to like try and get away from all the corruption.
Socioeconomic discrepancies. Yeah, don't worry. I heard the same thing somewhere. I can't remember where.
Smart guy, smart sounding guy. So with that, kind of tipped our. Well, I tipped my hat a little bit. I think Grant did as well. Are we satisfied with what we accomplished here today?
Yes, I would say yes. I have been more intrigued by this set of conference finals than I had in previous, well, at least last year. So it's nice to see I just got sick of seeing Tampa Bay in the Eastern Conference Finals. Fuck those guys. I'm glad that we've got it. Apparently Florida's the new Tampa because back-to-back conference finals for them.
It's crazy how just quick I'm like, nope, I've seen it. Like if Florida goes, I will not watch a Stanley Cup final that involves the Florida Panthers. Like I'm just like, no, I'm out. I don't care. I don't care who wins. I don't care if Edmonton beats them. Great, congratulations. Like I'm glad someone beat them. Like,
yeah.
maybe I'll watch the final 5 minutes kind of thing and be like, oh wow, okay, good job Canada, but like no interest whatsoever. And it's amazing how fast that flips. So like, no, been there, done that.
Yeah. So this is I'll offer this as one final perspective before we move on. Edmonton is Florida of the North. Like the same level of hillbillyism, the same level of like drunken, like, you know, Florida man, you could do an Edmonton man search and I guarantee you come up with equally like, just this morning I had a video of people, some lady ripped off a windshield wiper from a truck and started beating somebody with it. And apparently that was the tail end of a multi-car incident. So anyways, Edmonton is Florida of the North, and these teams, if they do meet, deserve each other.
Awesome. Cool. There you go. Swampy. Wait. Well, I wouldn't say that like Alberta is the Florida of Canada. So.
No, I
feel
wouldn't
like
say
that's like Newfoundland. Just a little off, you know. Like you went out there and everyone's like, oh, that's a little different.
Just a little quirky. But I think that there's just a level of hillbillyism that is reflected in both Edmonton and maybe Central Alberta, we'll call it, and Florida as a whole.
Yeah, it's true. I could definitely see Kid Rock being from like
Edmonton. Yeah, Red Deer. Guess what? I guarantee you Red Deer is like has somebody who's like, oh, that's just our Kid Rock.
Yeah, that is our Kid Rock. Cool. Great. Other news stories around the NHL. Anything else going that has piqued your interest? Canadian teams making noise. I've heard nothing about Montreal, right? They haven't made any changes. I think same with Ottawa. The Leafs, we talked about them hiring Berube last time. Winnipeg.
You hear Keefe got hired? Sheldon Keefe?
Yeah. Yeah, apparently he went out for lunch or something the morning after he got let go with the Leafs, and he was already in talks to go to sign on with New Jersey. So, quick, fast.
That's, life as an NHL head coach. Guess what? There's 34 people now vying for 32 jobs, and it's just a matter of time before you get a new one.
I mean, it's one of those things. Was Keefe a good coach? Yeah. Did he really struggle to make defensive coaching adjustments in like tight crunch situations in the playoffs? That's probably his greatest flaw. Other than that, I think he's pretty good. And now, was it all him? Was it all the players? Who's to say, right? I saw one thing happen a lot, and again, the lack of just changing and like almost being hampered and handcuffed by like, well, no, Austin Matthews has to play with Mitch Marner. That's just how it works. Oh, okay. Now again, was that Keith? Was that maybe someone higher up that's calling the shots? I don't know. I don't know who's to say. Right. So glad he moved on, and we'll see what the next era of the Devils looks like. Right.
I'm not saying the Devils are Maple Leaf equivalents, but there are comparable pieces. They've got a young group of forwards that can kind of rely on their skill. I don't know. I think it's a good fit. I'm not saying that they're Stanley Cup contenders, but I guarantee you New Jersey will be better than what we've seen from them.
If they're in the playoffs next year, like as a Metropolitan team, I would probably look and be like, damn, this was our chance. This was our time to get in. We probably won't see a crappy Washington next year, right? I would imagine like that's probably a Devils kind of role. So good, great, awesome, sweet.
And like I could honestly, Devils top 3, and they push somebody down into a wild card spot. Wouldn't surprise me. The other thing worth mentioning, Utah. Did you know Utah will be branded just as Utah next year? They can't get their fucking shit together in time to actually have a team name, and I don't. You've been masterminding this for months, NHL, and you didn't once think, hey, maybe we should encourage this ownership group to have a team name and color scheme picked out.
Yeah, and I don't know what the legal side of that too is, because like even think of like the Washington football team that existed for a hot second too, right, before they became the Commanders. Which I don't know, really, that's what we settled on. Like we had months to think about when with the Commanders, eh? Like I don't know,
that was exactly going to be my point. I was like, they are still, even with the added time, they're still going to fuck this up.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm like, just pick something either now or just go with like, again, I don't like hockey club. I don't hate hockey club. Why do we need mascots? Like, why did North America decide that we need like a mascot or like a name for our team?
That actually has a dark history that we can get into.
Oh, okay.
So it started with baseball back in like the 1910s, 20s, 30s, at a time when segregation and racism was at its peak.
I see.
And so baseball people are finicky people, and I don't want to
watch the White Sox and not the Black Sox.
Well, so I shit you not, this is documented. Players would have like good luck charms that they bring with them to the fields. Whether it was like one time a guy gave, I believe it was a small person with like some deformity, a ball, and then he hit 3 home runs that day. So that small person with the deformity was then dragged along with him on the road. I've heard stories of people making, like players making kids, these people sleep underneath their beds because they were just their good luck charms. So, like I said, dark, morbid history. Eventually, that evolved into a mascot.
Cool. All right. Well, so like we could not have that, right? We could get rid of like the racism part of this conversation, and just call them hockey clubs again. Like I think if we had a Vegas hockey club and a Utah hockey club, like I don't hate it, and you know what? It differentiates eras too, right? Because then we could have you would know who the classic. What are they called?
Expansion?
Six? No.
Original six.
Original six teams, right? You'd have your original six. You could almost have like different eras, right? Oh, this was the part where we gave up on nicknames a bit because they're all being woke. And then, oh yeah, look at that, the Blackhawks right back up in there in the 2030s. Like, oh yeah, we had some stuff happen. Also, we're not woke anymore. So cool, awesome, great, future, right? But wouldn't hate that. It doesn't surprise me. Other stories, I don't know if there's anything else that's jumped out. Right.
Last thing to wrap up that Utah conversation. Ryan Smith, who is the owner who brought them, you know what his goal is to win the Stanley Cup? And drink Diet Mountain Dew out of it. And I had this, I don't know why I hadn't connected. I was like, this guy's obviously a Mormon. He's from Utah. Could you imagine winning the Stanley Cup and having your Mormon owner have fucking Diet Pop for you? Like, this is what you get to celebrate? Imagine them winning the Cup in Utah and there not being an ounce of liquor for this team to celebrate with.
That is a big heads-up play from that owner, though. And I've heard that he's like a good businessman and stuff like that. Perfect. Drink Mountain Dew out of the Stanley Cup, just like it sells itself. You get the guy splashing it, because you can't do it with the beer, right? Because of the kids. You can't really, like, overtly advertise the alcohol with the sports, right? Like, you got to be kind of like, oh, they're just having splashy water, it's fine. But Mountain Dew, oh man, we can sell sugar to kids. Kids love sugar. Mountain Dew, oh baby. That's fucking a heads-up play right there. That's why they wanted him in the league. That's how we got a team.
It wasn't even Mountain Dew. It was Diet Mountain Dew. Like, yeah, fuck this guy.
Yeah, but, like, he's just trying to be true to himself and God. But, like, when the advertisers come, he might have, like, Red Blast or something like that.
Oh, yeah, Diet Baja. Like, there's going to be a Utah-flavored Mountain Dew now that just it tastes like failure and sand. Like,
yeah, well, I got Mountain Dew. I know.
Yeah. Oh my God! Anyway, I'm praying that this team never wins the Stanley Cup because I don't want to watch a celebration. Every glorious moment involving the Stanley Cup is somebody drinking beer, or every funny story is this got left behind at a bar. This thing's the best that's going to happen to this thing is that it's going to sit next to the Tabernacle on Sunday with the team clapping behind it. Like I can't, Mick. I can't. That's not hockey.
They left it in the theater that just plays Napoleon Dynamite all the time, like still. You know what? It was returned though, thankfully. Like local member of our church was in there after us and took it and put it in the lost and found. So
put a nice shine on it, yeah.
Ooh, all right, awesome. All right, so with that, yeah, that kind of wraps up all of our stories, thoughts. I think we have to do a little gambling advice and look at some boobs.
Yeah, well, you know, it's that time. I was talking, me and Mick, our preamble before we hit record. I was like, man, we don't often record as Canadian purveyors of Canadian hockey. We don't often record when there's just one game to choose from. So,
4 years ago, there was a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Finals. You know what I literally watched nothing of? Tampa Bay, Montreal. Also, because I think most of those games were over pretty. Like, I think most of those games, if you look back at the box score, it was like 3-0 in the first. And then they'd win like 5-1, and that was just 4 games. And I was like, okay, cool, all right.
Yeah, that was about it. Kind of akin to last year too. Disinteresting.
Oh, I was like, I hate both these teams. Oh, cool, awesome. I don't. That's
yeah. So, anyways, with that in mind, I have one play. I do something I don't typically do. I have one. I don't want to call it a monster parlay. One big-ish parlay. What do you got?
I just got like a medium little burrito parlay, all nicely wrapped up.
All right. You want to go first or second?
I'll go first. So as I alluded to, I think we're getting a couple game sevens, and I'd be willing to wager money on it. So let's go with Rangers winning tonight. I think they're probably the better team in Game 5. A couple, like I said, unlucky bounces. And it had it not been for that empty net goal, right? Had the Rangers when they pulled their goalie the first time actually scored. Overtime, who knows, right? And most of those games have been determined by overtime. Anyways, I will take plus money. I think it was like plus 1 something, 110. And I will take a Dallas winning Game 6 on Sunday. So Dallas, New York, for a plus 396 parlay, $100 to win $500.
Ah, well, I'm right around the same place. What I was going to do is I was going to parlay Rangers, but it was just too hypothetical. I was going to go Rangers win with an Edmonton win, but it was like it would just be too much hard math. And I suspect that might be the better way to go with it, but nevertheless, for simplicity's sake, I have the Rangers moving on and I have the Oilers moving on. As it stands, Rangers are listed as at plus 390, Oilers coming in minus 360. Parlay those together, you can turn $100 into $526.
Sick. Cool.
Yeah. And the truth is, when I think about, like, if I'm thinking about matchups like Dallas versus Florida, I promise you I wouldn't watch a minute. There's not a part of me that would be interested enough to turn on that TV. Likewise, Edmonton, Florida, obviously as an Oilers fan, I think I would be obligated to, but I want to look forward to it, unless it was like, it would be just a picture of Cassian pummeling Kachuk above my TV, and I would probably look at that and just listen for the horns to go off.
Like, it's just going to be one of those things. It's going to be annoying. Like, Sam Bennett's going to score a fucking goal and win a game, and you're like, God damn it. And then Kachuk's going to, like, knock out Draisaitl or something, hit him in the knee, and he's going to be, like, done for next season. And you're like, what the fuck? What's the point of life? Like, why are we even existing? It's just going to be terrible. It's going to be absolutely, like, I'll tell you exactly what it's going to be. No one's going to enjoy it. No one's going to like it. So, like, let's just, like, not put that out there in the universe, right? Like, Rangers, we really need you. On a side note, if I had $200 on the Rangers just getting to the Stanley Cup Finals, how the hell do I hedge that into making a profit? Like, $50 wagers, $100 wagers against the Florida here to get to the next game?
Do you have Rangers advancing to the finals?
I took them at like plus 150, and I bet something like $20-something, but my site froze. So instead of just like waiting for it to like refresh, I accidentally pressed rebet 4 times. So my $25 turned into like $100 or like $80 turned into that. So yeah, I have $200 on the Rangers advancing. So.
All right. Well, yeah, you might want to take off. It's not a good time now.
No.
The opportunity to maximize return is gone.
I thought of that as I looked the other night, like the game had started, and I was like, God damn, I should have definitely been like going like Florida, right? Like trying to chase here. And I'm like, no. Maybe I'll try and recoup a little bit tonight, but I don't know. I don't know what to do. I think I'm just come on, Rangers.
Yeah, you're full send on the Rangers. And like the Rangers and Oilers, not that they have a storied history, but if we go back to the 90s, their franchises were intermingled. Yeah. Glenn Sather, the Lows. Oh my God, who was that fucking GM too?
Oh, you could have Messier and just Gretzky come out and just like wear those like stupid half jerseys and just like wave, and everyone would be like, "Yeah, you play for both our teams."
Or have what choose one team and the other gets stuck with the other. Be like, Gretzky, who do you want? Oilers, Rangers, and then make Messier do the opposite.
why would Gretzky have the Rangers jersey? Like, why would that be his choice? But like, also would be the best move ever from Gretzky. He's like, no, I'm definitely pulling for the Rangers, and like Messier be like, no, Oilers all the way.
And then they just sorted out old-fashioned style. Just
Oilers fans be like so conflicted, and Rangers fans too. Like, wait, why do we like Wayne Gretzky more than Messier? I don't think he ever guaranteed a win in any game. So.
Yeah, he definitely didn't wear a fireman's helmet onto the ice following a national tragedy. So
you're right. I like the pick, but the extra pick, the flip, genius.
Yeah. So I hope if both real and hypothetical bets work out for you somehow. Yeah, I guess they would have to. You got to go Rangers here, hypothetically. Anyways, it'll be interesting. I hope this isn't our last Bettor Advice segment of the year, but if Edmonton loses, I have a hard time. That's basically it for us. We might do one more post-mortem next week, and that'll just be Canada. And, no guarantees. We probably won't. I don't know why I'm telling myself we probably will.
Is it nice? Is it sunny? I got up this morning, went fishing already. Had I not had to come home for a podcast, I could still be down by the river, guys. So.
Oh, man. Just high as a kite by the creek. That's life.
I didn't even bring any weed this morning. That would have been a great idea. Oh.
Yeah. Anyways. Is that it? It feels short.
Yeah, well, I feel like there was a while that we were playing, Puck Doku. We didn't play Puck Doku. There's, less to talk about.
I guess we did this last time, too, or maybe a couple times ago, where it's all right, well, let's talk more to drag it on. But we don't need to do that. We can move on to the final segment because the Canada Puck Podcast would not be the Canada Puck Podcast without our babe of the week. I frigged up. I was having computer issues, left my phone upstairs, so I'm going off of memory here. But one of the names that normally I think I've explained my MO, I have a list of ladies. I slowly, on my just search bar, I slowly cross them off. One name that came to mind, Nelly Leitinen, I believe. Nelli. Leitinen, Laitinen. I believe she plays with the Minnesota Gophers. I don't know what it is about Minnesota hockey, but they just have the finest talent both on and off the ice. And every part of me is just that sweet Nordic Minnesota nice blood. I want every part of it. I'm not saying I want your blood, Nelly Leitinen, but what I'm saying is more hypothetical or metaphorical. I like what you guys do in Minnesota.
So we got socioeconomical talk. We got advanced stat talk. We got the dark history of nicknames and racism in North America. And then we got blood desires. So this is a real spectrum of a show, guys. I don't know where we're going with this, but I like it. And Nelly Leitinen, you got it. Schwing.
Schwing.
A big shout out to the Minnesota PWHL team that won the championship this last week. So they beat Boston, which I just hate Boston so much. I couldn't even stand their women's. I don't care about the women's hockey league, but if Boston won, I hated it. So Minnesota, congratulations on just fuck Boston.
Yeah, you've earned a fan for life. Do you like the PWHL? We don't talk PWHL. Did you hear what their format was for playoffs?
No.
Basically, first team gets to pick whoever they want to play. Second team picks from the rest. Third team is just all right. I think there was 6 teams. Anyways, or maybe it was 4. Whatever it was, you basically pick your opponent and figure out how to advance.
I've heard that brought about. I don't know. I like a good bracket.
It's honestly
even reseeding sometimes. I'm meh. A good bracket is just hard to beat. They're just so nice and clever. March Madness works for a reason, guys. It's because we like watching things go boop, 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 right? And it's just everything's set. We know it's standard. Like I said, even reseeding almost seems too whimsical in my mind. So picking your opponent, I'm no, that's too kids playing NBA 2K too much. I'm no, I'm good.
All right, fair. I liked it better than the current NHL format because if Toronto got to pick their opponent, I promise you they wouldn't pick Boston every year.
Or would they?
Yeah, that's exactly the thought that we're going to leave everybody with. Go think about this podcast world.
There you go. So with that, all we have to say is hopefully we'll see you guys next week, and we have to do at least to show if the Oilers make, or we have a Canadian team in the finals, unlike the last time the Canadian team was in the finals. Me and Grant were I haven't watched a single second of this series. It seems boring. Cool. So maybe we'll do that. So go Oilers and go Dallas Mavericks, because again, fuck Boston. It's terrible. So with that we say party on, Grant.
Party on, Mick. We'll see everybody next week.